Thank you all so much for having me.
We'll call this special meeting of the County Commissioners to order. The purpose of our meeting today is to speak with Elizabeth James, and Elizabeth is the State Coordinator for Charter Communications. Right? And Elizabeth is here to explain her company's plans to expand and a build out to provide rural broadband service to Fayette County. So if that's adequate enough, Elizabeth, I'll turn the presentation over to you and let you run with it.
That was more than adequate. Forgive me for jumping the gun there. This is actually my first public commissioners meeting. I started the job mid-pandemic. Everything's been virtual. So, yes, as Commissioner Strong mentioned, I'm the manager over government affairs for Charter. My boss, Leanne Herrera, is not present today, but she oversees Indiana as well as Illinois, and I'm happy to pass along her contact info as well. So, just a little bit about Charter. We are the second largest broadband provider in the country, second only to Comcast. We have a workforce just over 96,000 individuals, just over 31 million customers, and we pass just over 2.5 million homes and businesses. The only reason I even have this slide in here is just to emphasize we are not a fly-by-night company. We've been doing this for quite some time now, and we are, like I mentioned, the second largest broadband provider in the country. We are the largest rural broadband provider in the country. We acquired Time Warner and Bright House Networks, which you all might be a little bit more familiar with. Those two names, the acquisition took place 5 years ago, and then those two were merged under the parent company of Charter Communications right around 5 years ago. It was one of the largest acquisitions in history. It's a little bit about us nationally. Now here's what you all are going to be more interested in. It's RDOF, which stands for Rural Digital Opportunity Fund. This is a federal program. It's housed under the FCC and totally administered by the FCC. It was a reverse auction of $20.4 billion and awarded over a 10-year period. So Charter bid on certain rural areas and was awarded just over $9 billion nationally. Now within Indiana, we were awarded just over $59 million for the state, and we will provide just over $200 million of private capital to expand specifically into rural areas such as Fayette County. This is, like I said, totally administered by the FCC, but the providers such as ourselves will set the schedule on this, not the FCC. So while there are certain guidelines we have to follow, certain benchmarks we have to meet, it is up to us, the provider, to meet those and set those. There will be a second round of RDOF coming. The FCC has said that. That's important to keep in mind. There will be another $11 billion that will be awarded to hopefully build off of the first round. They haven't said when that's going to be coming, but we as a company fully expect to participate in that round as well. So again, this kind of expands a little bit on what I already mentioned, but there was a total of $169 million in Indiana. Now that is including other providers, not just ourselves. And a national impact, this is a huge national undertaking of over 5.2 million homes and businesses in almost every state in the country. It's a huge Indiana impact of over 152,000 new passings. So overall, this is really going to expand rural broadband within the state. This was our corporate news launch. Now we're going to hope to expand over to 1 million new customers. nationally, and the big thing about us that separates us from the other smaller providers is the private capital we're able to expand on in this project. Within Indiana, within the U.S., we're going to invest just over $5 billion privately and expand past our 750,000 miles of network. The other great thing about this initiative is we have employed over 2,000 new individuals just within the state, and it's predicted that for every $4 invested in broadband, $5 will be returned to the economy. So this is going to have a very lasting impact within the county, within the state, and that's why we're excited about it. Nationally, the gray is where our footprint already is. The blue is where we are expanding with RDOF. So this just gives an overview so you can really grasp it tangibly of where we are going. We'll get much more granular in a minute with Indiana, of course. Indiana specific, the kind of light shaded blue is our expected RDOF footprint, and the dark blue is our existing footprint. So we do not currently have a large footprint within Fayette County. We don't. But Fayette County was one of those, as well as Union County, Randolph, Delaware, some of the more especially rural areas within the state that we really targeted within this auction. We serve currently within Indiana over 81 communities, and with this initiative we will look to more than double our footprint within the state specifically. So what does that mean? Currently we have over 6,000 miles of fiber, and we're looking to add over 4,000 miles more of fiber. And like I mentioned earlier, this is a $59 million investment, and we are going to impact just over 54,000 addresses within the state, which is really huge. Sometimes you will hear folks use the word passings, and a passings can be either a home, a business, a school, any of the above. So that 54,000 is total number of passings going to be impacted by RDOF alone, just with us. And again, keep in mind there are other providers that are awarded funds through RDOF. I believe for Fayette County there was one other LTD broadband, and I do not believe their impact was going to be large. Again, I obviously don't work for them or represent them, but they were the only other provider on the list that was awarded within the county, and that's LTD broadband. I can get you all more information on them after if you'd like. So here's the part that we're all here for. This is the county. Obviously we can see Connorsville. CCO Holdings LLC is Charter. That is us. This is the expected footprint that will be built out with RDOF. We are really excited about Fayette County. We are going to be doing just over 1,000 passings within the county. Again, passings, home, business, school, which that's a pretty huge build out. We are also doing a very large build out in the neighboring county of Union. It's going to be just under a $2 million award for the county. And then again, a very substantial private contribution, but right around 1,164 total passings for the county. Here's another vantage point of that. You all will be a little more familiar with the geography here than I am, but it's a huge portion of the county. Particularly heavy on the east side, as we look at I'm sorry, is it 1 that runs through? Yeah. Really heavy to the east of 1. Here's a little more to the west, the northwest of Connorsville. There will also be a footprint, but particularly heavy again towards the east and southeast of Connorsville, for using that as our central point. So what are you getting with that? What does that mean? Charter has the fastest speeds to offer, second to none. 1,000 megabits downloading, 500 megabits uploading. That's a lot of arbitrary numbers, but that's really as fast as anybody needs. We have capability to provide 1 gig down, 500 megabits up, which is really business proportions if you're going to run a business, something along those lines. We really think we separate ourselves from the rest. We have no modem fees, no contracts, no data caps. So we are really excited to bring this service to the county and offer these speeds. And they will be available anywhere where our footprint is going, not just in some spots. Anywhere where you saw the green, these speeds will be available. This website is a really awesome resource that we set up, spectrumruralexpansion.com. And I'm happy to share this with you all after, and it can be passed around to whomever. You can go in, type in your address, and see, am I going to have access to the RDOF build? Is my address in that green, in that footprint? And it will tell you yes, no, or we're coming. It will tell you on a very granular level. And again, that's just spectrumruralexpansion.com. This is our private website where you can look to see. Did want to touch just a little bit on some other initiatives that we are exploring. Charter is exploring within the county and around the state, really. So NTIA broadband grants is another federal program. Broadband tribal connectivity program. These are all grant programs of sorts from the federal government, similar to the RDOF that we've been speaking about. State funding, this is a really big one for rural counties. The Okra Line Extension Program is one to reach those who are just one off from the current service territory. And when we really look at the state, Indiana doesn't have a middle mile broadband problem. We really have a last mile broadband problem. So we have plant, but we have those 3 or 4 one-offs who, hey, I can see the plant from my house, but I don't have service. That's really what we are seeing a lot throughout Indiana, outside the urban areas. So this program is being run by the state's broadband, housing the state's broadband office, and it will be where the resident can go in and enter in their address, and they can submit it, I think, via phone as well. And then there will essentially be a reverse auction by qualified providers off those addresses administered by the state. So kind of modeled off the FCC's RDOF program, but Indiana is kind of making it their own, if you will, to reach those, again, one-offs, just a mile off plant. The Next Level Connection grant program is huge. We are currently doing white space analysis, which is where we're looking at where's RDOF, where are other funding initiatives, and what's the white space in between, and how can we reach those folks. The Next Level Connection broadband grant program is going to be huge. The 3rd round is coming up. We are currently in the process of submitting letters of intent for those. This past legislative session, the state set aside $270 million for broadband. So that's obviously a huge amount of money. And the line extension program, as well as the next level connection program, will pull from that $270 million to kind of fill in the gaps where the federal government didn't reach. Local funding, this is where we really want to partner with you all locally to figure out how can we work with you as you get ARPA funding in to expand off of what we're already doing with RDOF. How can we fill in that white space that we're looking at analyzing? So this is, we hope, at the beginning of truly a partnership as we look to navigate all these funding sources. This slide we are especially proud of. This is detailing our broadband adoption, and once all of these networks are built out here in Fayette County, all of these programs you're seeing on the screen will be available to folks within the county. So this is getting at adoption, folks who aren't taking advantage of our services for one reason or for another, whether it's maybe funding, income level, they have a digital literacy gap. There's a plethora of reasons, but we've really found that adoption of broadband is just as big of an issue as having access to it. So Spectrum Internet Assist, we're very proud of this program. It's available to low-income students who are on free or reduced lunch, as well as seniors who receive Social Security income. And that's $17.99 a month. Nothing on top of that. No other fees, no data caps. That's it, $17.99. And you're getting substantial good speeds off that. It's not a lower level. It's what you would need to work from home, apply for jobs. It's a good speed at that price. Spectrum Stay Connected, K through 12. It's how we're partnering with schools to use CARES Act funding to buy bulk broadband, education grants, FCC emergency broadband benefit, and Spectrum Community Solutions, where we are partnering to buy bulk internet for group housing. So of all those up there, what's of most interest to you all, or maybe want to get the word out to the community, is probably the Spectrum Internet Assist that has been very popular within the Indianapolis area and has really helped to serve a lot of students and their families. So that was very fast and a quick overview. One more thing I did want to mention before we get to questions is, you're all probably wondering, well, what's the timeline for this? It's literally the end of this year. We are, the biggest thing I need from the commissioners today is contact information as far as permitting. We are literally right there to get started. The hope is to start breaking ground within Fayette County first of next year, springtime. We are starting on a couple counties, Park, I believe, and a couple others right now, September, October, November. Fayette County's not quite at that point, but you're just behind it. So we need to start having permitting conversations, and then, like I said, the hope is we move towards the breaking of ground and physical part the first of next year. So this is happening, and it requires funding from the county. It's all federal funds, and that's really where we're at timeline-wise. So unless anything else happens.
Okay, now, with your installation, what are you installing as far as infrastructure goes?
It's going to be fiber to the home.
Okay, fiber to the home.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, then are you going to use existing utility poles to run fiber?
Yes, sir.
Are you going below grade?
Most of it's going to be aerial. So that's a good question. For some reason, and this is above me, we bid on fiber to the home as opposed to hybrid, which is what our networks typically are. So all of these build outs, not just Fayette County, all of them will be fiber to the home, and we'll be working with the local utilities. Yes.
Okay. And well, I think one thing that you'll want is, in the past when we've had different projects, of course, running some of the fiber to get to some of the towers in close to town, is what they've requested, is any work that you're going to do within, say, the county right of way, So if all you're doing is you're stringing, you just need to then get your permission with the project and timeline recommendation, and so you can use their right of way. All right, now, is there going to be, what else are you, is there anything else that you're going to build as part of your infrastructure? You're just running along the system?
That, I honestly need to probably reserve that for our construction team. But this is totally so we can get those questions and start that.
Well, that's why I'm asking these questions.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is the, okay, so for example, is dependent upon what, okay, so typically you wouldn't, okay, as far as your connections to going out, are you using towers to transmit, receive, or is everything still part of a ground-based system?
It's going to be aerial, so
Okay, so you
towers
will
and
need to
stuff.
build some towers.
Yeah.
Okay. And then one we're going to come into with towers will be then with the aerial. Of course, it depends upon down where you're looking at it, probably won't be a problem with the airport, but we still need to go through the FAA analysis.
Sorry, you said the airport, sir?
Yeah, the airport.
Where's that at within
It's
the county?
to the north,
Or in the county.
north of the county.
North of the
Or
county.
it's end of Connersville.
Got it, thank you.
Yeah, because what we do with those is whatever you need to do with the locations, height of the towers, elevations. If we put on that, so depending upon where you need to put those, it's just going through the process to, the no finds of negative effect to air operations, since what they use is they use a electronic guidance system for the aircraft. So, whatever goes with that. So then be whatever you need to do with that. Now towers are different types of communication towers. Those are a special exception. Those go through the zoning board.
Okay.
So what we'll need for that will be the information on the location of the towers. Okay, if there's going to be multiple locations that you want, what you want to have is the FAA sign off for each individual location.
I'm sorry, sir, and your name?
Bill McDaniel, I'm the planning director.
Great, thank you. Bill McDaniel.
Yeah, Bill McDaniel, yep.
And what I'll probably do, Bill, and one of the biggest to-dos on my list today is to get your name and information, and our construction team has asked that we put you in contact with them.
Good.
And so they can really get the ball rolling here in
So
October.
there'll be some towers, and then that connects into the fiber system. So,
Great, okay.
so like I said, be the locations, however many, and if there are multiple tower locations, those can all be handled as part of the same public hearing.
And permitting would go all through you too?
Yep.
Streamlining, permitting and everything? Great, okay.
Since communication towers don't require design release from Indiana, what we'll just need will be, of course, the engineering.
Great.
And then the permits for that. The big ones, of course, are always within the type of towers, or the new towers, new cabinets, or the new electronic cabinets that we usually install for each antenna.
Okay, excellent. Okay, and Bill, what's the best way to contact you?
Best way to contact me, there's two. The phone is 765-825-9808. But my preferred means is email. It's bmacdaniel. It's for Bill, and it's MACDANIEL at co.fayette.in.us.
Thank you.
And I do have a question. Of course, you're
Yep.
only going so far to the west.
Correct.
Is this someone's territory? This would be the sort of thing that might be included in a future federal grant.
That's an excellent question.
Expanding your territory.
That's an excellent question. It's most likely not in someone else's territory, at least for RDOF, because LTD is the only other one. I think they only had like 1 or 2 passings for the county, something very minuscule for the county. It had to do with certain census blocks that were available to bid upon. So
Okay.
we did not determine.
Well, I was just wondering how that was.
No, that's a very good question. So the green that you all saw was not determined by charter. The FCC put it up for bid. We bid in a reverse style and won the bid.
So where did the FCC get that information? How did they know what Well, I'm in one of those blocks that's just to the west of the green.
Okay. Well, so these are the things we want to know, and we hope that you'll stay in contact with us because you might be an excellent candidate for partnering in ARPA funds if that's something the county is looking to use ARPA funds for, or a line extension program, or our own white space analysis, because with RDOF we're now going to have existing network and it's going to make more sense to build off that network. So they determine them on a wide variety of factors, on how rural, how many providers were already there, what type of service were already there. It had to qualify as being unserved or underserved already by the FCC standards. So that's where you get the green areas that were available for bid.
I guess to the commissioners, I would ask, are you a part of providing that information to the FCC? You know, where do they get that? Because right now, where I live, there is little or no broadband availability. And what we've been told, Frontier, we actually, at my house, on the tail end of Frontier coming off of Hillbilly Hill down 650 West. Anybody that's around the corner from me can't get anything. And, you know, we have people who live rurally who have children who need services for school. We have elderly who are on heart monitors that need, you know, to have broadband availability. I mean, there's a multitude of reasons, and what we keep being told is that, at least by Frontier, that, you know, it has to pay for itself.
Yeah, that's the hard part here is we're not regulated like a utility. We don't have an automatic, I'm sure you've all heard this before, we don't have an automatic guaranteed customer at the end of the line. That's the beauty of RDOF, is it's being subsidized. Frontier is in bankruptcy, so they are going through some changes. Obviously, can't speak to that, but
They are also expanding, but I don't know, it seems like I'm in that wonderful little corner down there that nobody wants to provide anything for because I think they run some new lines up to a point.
okay.
But you know, there are a number of households that I'm guessing are like I am and my neighbor is, and we
Okay.
just don't have
Sure.
good availability.
My first thought on an address such as yours is you'd be a great candidate for the line extension program that the state is putting on. So you would give your information to the state. We don't submit it. You have to do it as a resident. That's the big difference between the next level connection grants and the line extension. You submit your address and then they are put up for auction by the providers, and we could then go in and bid on that again. So, and that program is going to be live, we hope, by the end of this month too. So that's a very present program as well.
So to the commissioners, can we be sure that we get that information out to the people in the county that are like myself?
Well, one place you
Absolutely.
can see how close you are to the end.
Well, I can call the number.
Yeah. Well, no, what I'm also saying, if you want to see it on maps, you can go to the Census Bureau, they do all have the Census Tract maps. So, like I said, as she said, that's how they're bid out. It's just it's a convenient way for the federal government to bid things out, is use Census Tracts.
Where do you get that information?
Okay, the Census Bureau will have Census Tract maps for the
Broadband?
well, the entire country. Because that's the Census Tract is, you know, when, so it's, those are all used for the purpose of, you know, the census administration. Yeah, so exactly for the census. So you have this Census Tract, that Census Tract. So what is for this particular tract, and one thing you can research in this tract. So I'm going to have different demographic information than this one. So it's just the way it's broken up. So you can get a chance, so you have an opportunity, so you go to the Census Bureau, look at Census Tracts for Fayette County, Indiana, and then we'll see, you get an idea of how close you are to the But yeah, that's probably might be the easiest one to just get an idea in your head. It used to provide all the different tract maps, everything was provided, paper documents. Now they may have because in the past, typically all the census studies, every census in the past traditionally should have been also released to every single public library should have all the census information.
It seems to me like we've been talking about this for an awful long time, even in this county. I can remember when I was involved with Community Voices and then became an officer in that group, that was one of the things that some of our groups were looking at was broadband internet access, and they were attending meetings and all kinds of stuff, but nothing ever came of it.
Sure, I think, at least from our perspective as the provider, we feel like this is the best time ever for broadband because there's so much funding. It's hard to keep it straight almost, which is a good problem to have.
Yes.
It's federal, state, and ARPA funds, which these guys get to, have some control over. We have a hard time even, deciding where to go because there's so much funding. So first of all, that's a good thing. Second of all, that allows us to subsidize future builds and do this white space analysis, which if you're willing, I'm happy to take your address. And so we compile a list of one-off addresses. Look, this person's just right off of our service territory. We need to keep them in mind for hopefully the next RDOF round or, like I said, state grants, etc. So we're constantly compiling that information and we want to know and hear it from you all. So seriously. Yeah.
One comment before I want to make a comment to think about.
Yeah.
Obviously, 2019, as bad as it was for the COVID and stuff, one thing it did do is put emphasis on the weakness of the internet system because of e-learning.
Right.
That forced the kids in. Secondly, all the data that you guys get, the government gets, every licensed SUC provider in the United States is bound and regulated to know where where they're providing service areas are throughout the country. They can't just pop up and go into any place they want to.
Right.
Basically. So that's where all this data is coming from. And looking at your map there, to maybe help her question, I live in Bentonville, which never showed up on any of the maps.
Okay.
But I'm way up in the northwest county, and the difference I see between the green area you're doing and where I live is the topography of the ground.
Okay.
I'm in flat farm ground.
So tell me where you're at, sir, on this one.
See where Falmouth is?
Yes.
Go 3 miles north of that.
Okay. Okay.
And I'm on flat ground, I'm on Watch out of Rushville.
Okay.
Which is the
Watch
wireless.
Communications.
Yeah, it's wireless. And I've gotten 25 meg down and 3 up and thrilled.
Right.
But I'm paying $75 a month for it too.
Okay.
But all the areas in the green there's obviously down Columbia, east of Everton, east of Connorsville. That is all hilly terrain where wireless is very ineffective because you have to have line of sight.
Yes.
And that's one of the problems we got that you're going to help solve because you're getting to that area and having physical fiber.
Right. And before, to I think this lady's point, before it with private capital, we couldn't do it because there wasn't, a guaranteed return, to be quite honest.
Right.
But now with the subsidies, we can go to these places that haven't been. And we have to keep in mind here too, they know there's going to be a second round. So of 11 billion still out there for this. So there very well could be a greater strategy to this that truly we as providers aren't even privy to. Whereas this is worst first in the FCC's mind. And then, round 2 will head up to your area. But really, we had to meet the threshold. These census blocks, to even be able to be bid on, had to meet the threshold of unserved or underserved. So,
and I recall from an early meeting when I first came on council about there's a county area project to talk about. I think the EDG was providing that. There was a cost figure, and I don't have my notebook with me, fiber on a pole runs $10,000 a mile or something in excess of that probably now.
It's
And
expensive.
underground was super expensive.
Yeah, it's very expensive. I think there's a
So
disconnect.
if you're trying to run out to my area where there's 3 houses on 2 miles of road, well, it becomes kind of cost ineffective.
Right, and not every one of those houses might take up your
Right.
service.
Right.
And even if all 3 do, it may still not be a
Yeah.
good return. So that's why we are really excited as a company about these
Oh, yeah.
programs.
Yeah, because I applaud this, because that, even if her and I don't get it, what you're gonna do for the kids and stuff and out in these area communities, well, it's gonna be terrific.
Yeah, and we really hope to, like I said, I know the adoption stuff probably goes over everybody's head because this is so exciting, but we really do want to make this stuff as accessible as possible once it's here, which we're already doing in our existing footprint. And all of this, I'm happy to pass along to the commissioners and it can be distributed. So,
Thank you.
yeah, absolutely.
So by the map, the light green down like around Everton, is that saying that it already has good broadband or it doesn't?
The gray, sir?
Yeah, great, I'm sorry.
That's okay. That is just not an area that was awarded in any form via RDOF. Nobody, I don't know if it was up for award, but nobody was awarded that area for one reason or another. Like I said earlier, LTD Broadband is the only other one in Fayette that their footprint was not substantial. Typically in these presentations, I'll at least show the other provider so folks know they didn't have anything even worth, you couldn't even see it. So that wasn't awarded anybody is the best answer I have for you. It most likely didn't meet the unserved or underserved threshold by the FCC, most likely. We're doing a huge undertaking in Union County, which is exciting. So there's a lot of emphasis on this side of the state right now in particular.
So then over a period of time, we could end up with 3 or 4 different broadband companies in Fayette County.
Sure, absolutely. Absolutely. And we, for the record, we welcome that. Our goal is to expand service in the rural areas. It was Farm Bureau's #1 state priority this past legislative session. We are on board with that. We want to see every corner of the state with not just service, but good service, adequate service. So we want to be a partner in this, and we hope that you'll engage us in any forum discussions like this, as well as thinking towards using the ARPA funds towards broadband.
I think what happens sometimes with people who tend to live near cities or towns that have adequate service don't understand how many services now are delivered by internet, and even something as simple as making a doctor's appointment and trying to keep track of what's going on in terms of, when you have to meet, what your records look like, how you transfer your records.
Right.
I was thinking the other day, we've gotten into that this year unexpectedly, and fortunately I have enough technology background that I can do that, but I was thinking about, my older neighbors, for instance, who haven't been allowed that opportunity to do that simply because they haven't had the internet. And what would they do? I guess they still pick up the telephone and do it the hard way.
Yeah, and I do want to emphasize with this line extension program, it would be a little counterproductive to say you had to go online and enter in your address if you don't have internet.
That's right. That's right.
So there is going to be another means by which you can report to the state. You have to forgive me, I don't remember if it's by phone or mail off the top of my head, but it is in statute that you can report by other means.
I would say to the commissioners that, that is really something that even a volunteer group within the county needs to sort of take on, trying to give people the information, whether it comes via the newspaper or radio or whatever, that they have the opportunity to do this, to get, some information out to these companies that might possibly come in and be able to provide them with that. And I don't know how that you work around doing something like that, but I think that's critical.
Absolutely, and now, going back to my earlier point, there are many different avenues available to us right now. It's kind of getting the word out, really. And we as the provider want to give you all the resources to be able to partner with you.
Well, Leanne and John, in answer to one of your questions you had, I can tell you, because I was involved in this, local and regional economic development organizations here helped facilitate a internet survey through Purdue University in just recent months. And participation in that survey was dismal. There was so many people that really needed to respond to the survey that didn't. I even had one fellow call me. He said he would like to respond to the survey, but he had no internet to do that with,
Right.
And it all had to be done online. So when the FCC looks at the results of these surveys to determine what blocks on the map to put up for auction, they're using the data that they've gathered from these surveys, and the surveys are poor.
Yes.
And I don't know if anyone at the FCC realizes that or not, but that's certainly the case for Fayette County. But this project here is the best news I've heard in a long time. Now, we've all heard for a long time these billions and billions and billions of federal money that's been earmarked for rural broadband. And this is Fayette County's first opportunity to enjoy the benefits of this program. And speaking for myself, I certainly don't want to do anything to hinder this effort. I want to do everything I can to help facilitate this thing. When Elizabeth and I first started talking about this over the phone, I was cautiously optimistic. Now I'm kind of getting more excited. So I certainly want to do everything I can to help facilitate this build out. And Elizabeth, if I understand right, the opportunity for a second round of build outs in this area of the state, it looks promising, would you say?
Federally, from
Yes.
the fed. I would think so, because it's our guess that they will look to expand off the first round. That makes the most sense geographically, and it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to do it real spotty. So if we have all this activity from the first round, it makes a lot of sense if the FCC looks to expand upon that. We really think they will make announcements about the second round soon. There's a lot of money still sitting in that pot. So if not from state funds, we hope that RDOF round 2 will speak to Fayette County further.
Okay.
We're hopeful.
Yes. Well, this is good news no matter how you look at it.
Absolutely.
But I would certainly like it to be better. I want to try to get to Leanne's house if we can, possibly. My personal goal as far as this broadband thing goes is I want to see high-speed broadband service available at every location in Fayette County where electricity is available. just like the old rural electrification programs of the 1930s and 40s. So this is a start. This doesn't get all of Fayette County, but this is certainly a start. And
Maybe we need to do those old house-to-house surveys where we just go around and say, you know, we need this information. I know lots of the surveying anymore is done predominantly over the internet, but
a house-to-house survey would certainly give different statistics than the FCC currently has, that's
I
for
think
sure.
so. Well, and we give people that maybe don't even have any idea they have the possibility of having internet in their household.
Right.
That whole,
Commissioner, I did want to share one more important tidbit that is of interest to you all. I mentioned there are certain benchmarks we have to meet as a provider. We don't just have 20 years to do this, which is good. The FCC established 4 primary benchmarks, and I can send them to you all. They're also public on the FCC's webpage. But 40% of passings, again, passing is that number that's just a little over 1,000, have to be constructed by year 3, end of year 3, which is December 31st, 2024. That's 40%. 60% has to be done by year 4. That's December 31st, 2025. 80% of passings must be done by year 5. That's December 31st, 2026. And then we have to be entirely done with all of the 1,100 and some passings by the end of year 6, December 31st, 2027. Now, it's our goal, obviously, to exceed those benchmarks, but we have to, or they can claw back funding from us. So we are incentivized to meet those benchmarks. Now, how we meet them is still up to us internally, but that's the floor we have to meet.
So the FCC is giving charter until the end of 2027 to have this build out done. But this
Completely.
build out this isn't just Fayette County. This is also all these other areas that shows on this big map, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So this
So this is a huge undertaking from
Yeah.
as a corporate standpoint, but yes, we have to be done in Fayette County by the very end of 2027, 6 years.
But conceivably, there could be other build-outs
Oh, that start,
awarded in
absolutely.
those 5 years.
Whether it's from state funding or federal, either one, but yes. And those timelines can overlap too.
Because Everton area looks like it'd be a good fill-in
Sure.
to
Yeah.
see
'cause
as
it's-
how it's surrounded.
See, now that's a good example of white space analysis. So where are the gaps that are left now?
Okay.
Absolutely. A lot of other commissioners have asked that question. They want to know that we're being held accountable, and we are. So
Okay. As far as the permitting goes, Bill, you and your office and the
Yeah.
APC will be able to handle all that.
And when would you like to get, what's your goal to get started on, see, on any of the towers that you need to install?
what I'm going to do next, Bill, is I'm going to give your name to. We have a whole team designated just for RDOF. They're not doing anything else for us. And the man that's leading that, his name is Bojan, Bojan. I'm going to talk to him tomorrow, tell him we met, give him your info, and I think he's probably going to want to meet sometime in October-ish.
Yeah, because if we can get the, okay, I'd say ideally to shoot for to make sure everything's all in place.
Mhm.
Well, the November zoning board will meet the Thursday before Thanksgiving.
Okay.
Okay, then in December, it will meet the Thursday before Christmas.
So just one meeting a month?
Yeah, we just have one meeting a month. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, so if we can get in touch with me so we can get everything taken care of, get him rolling with everything he needs to do regarding, I can get copies of the Air Force Protection District Overlay.
Okay.
Overlay District. Then get him the meeting dates and then the things that we need to do to get moving for constructing the special exception and the construction of the towers.
Great. And you'd be surprised how often with these projects, it comes down to we just can't get a hold of people. Like it's that minute of a delay. So it's great to have met you and get your information, and that was truly my biggest goal from today. So.
Yeah. So it sounds like probably is the problem, be too short a time really probably to do something for October, but I think we should be in contact, should have some things ready to go for the, I think, it sounds like you should probably have things ready to go for the, next November. Of course, they'll need to have your sites located for special towers.
Yeah, and that is information is not in my arena, but like I said, this Fayette County was not in the first hopper, but it's towards the top, hence why I'm here. I know there's some other really big ones that they hope to break ground on before the end of the year, but Fayette is right behind those. So.
Down south in the county, there's probably not any real issues as far as towers. Because once we depend upon what would want to happen with, say, parts of the north of the county, well, I don't think they'd be a problem because they're to the west of the air path.
Okay.
For the airport. So that's probably not a problem, but I don't know if you have, like you said, if there need to be towers up north also. It's, that might be a little more problematic, but they're probably far enough west that won't be a problem.
Okay.
But we'll just need to go through that. And typically, how tall are the? Of course, I know it depends upon the terrain or something.
It does. It does. I can all of that information. I can start compiling, and we can have those conversations even before.
She's just a pretty face representative. Bill.
I also have to work with state legislators, so I do that part-time too.
This goes to massage.
Yeah. So I would just encourage if you guys get addresses trickling in, to seriously pass them along. We have a running database we keep. So that's the biggest thing.
Well, I think one thing that might be helpful for that is if the school corporation can release the information, is maybe we use the basis of the maps, but some other areas, if they don't have to tell us who, well, if we have an idea of the locations of students, they could very readily need either that little extra distance or we can find some other means to get internet connection for some of the children that live way out in the county.
Yeah, and you bring up a good point too, Bill, and this is a little more granular than I was going to get to, but the state funds, the Next Level Connections funds, are you familiar with, how familiar? No, okay. This most recent round, the $270 million, there's a prioritization, there's a pecking order for those. First of which being rural hospitals, schools, and then students to specifically meet the needs from the pandemic. So students are going to be viewed more favorably in the eyes of the state as far as getting, say there's a cluster of students in Everton, that's going to be viewed more favorably to the state. Now, those state grants, those Next Level Connection state grants, remember, different from the line extension program, we apply for as the provider. The line extension program, you as the resident would initiate the conversation with the state. So that's the biggest difference there. But students, rural hospitals, and schools are the three prioritized.
And that's the state program.
That's correct.
Okay, well, I think maybe an opportunity that might be really well out of your area. So this could apply, well, we do have one person locally, he's constructing either 2 or 3 Wi-Fi towers. And so I suppose someone like this, with that state program, probably, if he has the data of the needs, could probably be someone who, so would it be the, okay, say the person who might want to build the towers to get the internet, would this person then be the person who would apply for that particular grant?
That's correct.
As the developer?
So for example, right now we are putting together a letters of intent for certain areas around the state where we want to apply for a grant where they will subsidize our build out based off a lot of different factors, but one of which is feedback from the local community, you know, hearing from them. I've heard quite a bit from parts of Boone County, and that's one of the areas we're looking at filing an LOI as the provider. So yes, that individual would file an LOI, and then I believe the larger application is due either November or December, with awards to be put out in March of 2022.
And,
Excusing one.
yeah, because if this person's interested, is what department of the state would they contact to start this process?
OCRA, OCRA,
Okay.
and that's housed within the Lieutenant Governor's office. And that acronym, Bill, stands for the Office of Community.
Enrollment Affairs.
Yes.
Okay.
And
Is that,
line
Yeah,
extension is
it's
also housed in there.
yeah, I think it was Hartsel, yeah.
So,
Came down and looked at our field and said no.
Did you love?
Yeah.
Well, you can get something with the, you can get something a little more up.
We have to apply.
There can only be so many apply
Okay.
for it at a time.
See if I can get that information.
Does our county have any funding available to help with this at all? Any of these grants that have been mentioned, any of that grant money come into it?
We don't currently have any grant money sitting in front of us right now on this. I know that there's constantly opportunities coming and going for various things. I think there is some things.
Comprehensive plan needs to get done, and I know we have 60 grand to get that finished up hopefully.
Yes.
And that's gonna be a step in the right direction, because that's gonna open up more Oprah money, I think.
Well, I certainly wouldn't rule out another opportunity for a grant for something like this, Leanne. But as far as ARPA funds go, the way it looks right now, all of our ARPA funds are pretty much spoken for other projects, you know. And you know, opportunities to spend money keeps coming along on a pretty regular basis, you know. So at the time we were laying plans for our ARPA funds, we hadn't yet heard this thing. All you know, this is certainly deserving of something like that, but I wouldn't make any promises on that. So we'll have to. We've got a lot of things to sort out
I
yet.
think we need to get the word out too. I think we need to get, she just mentioned that when there was community support in a county, that is significant. And I think that's something we need to work on within the county, is getting the word out and getting some community support to do something like this rurally. And I think that would be very helpful.
Yes, I agree 100% on that. Elizabeth,
yes.
can you, do you have enough information today to tell us just how many miles of cable would be placed in Fayette County?
I do not, but I can get it readily.
Okay, and
I have passings, and I have what we were awarded for the county.
okay,
That's roughly as granular as we get. And the reason these maps aren't more zoomed in is then it kind of gets to address level, which is proprietary. But like I mentioned, that address, or excuse me, that website, you can go in and put in any address you want and get granular on your own. We just don't have maps.
Do you have any questions for me? I have a couple of inspections.
I don't think so, Bill. Is it okay to follow up with you though?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
certainly.
Thank you so much. It was
Oh.
great to meet you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. But Commissioner, I don't, but I can get it for you readily though.
Okay, well, we're not gonna let you leave the
Yeah.
building today until you have all the contact information and
That'd
everything
be
you
great.
need to facilitate this thing.
Okay.
But the,
He was the big one, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
the maps, though, we really can't get better maps than what you have here today.
Probably not much more granular, because then it kind of gets in, I know this is a
Yeah.
hard point. We've been asked this before, and our legal team would prefer not, because like I said, we get into some proprietary information. What I can do though is, this is just on a, I pulled these just from a public site, an RDOF site for the FCC, and I can go in as far, I can go a little further in. If you'd like me to, if there's a specific area, just can't do addresses if that's okay.
Is it possible for us to have a printed version of your presentation that you showed on the screen today?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay,
I can send it to you after, and you can do whatever you want with it.
okay.
There's nothing confidential on it, so you can have it.
And I'm curious about something else. Let's say this particular project would include 1,000 passings.
Over,
And-
yes, just over.
Okay, so over 1,000 passings. Does and once the cable is strung and everything, does the percentage of that 1,000 who actually become customers, is there a way, does the level of participation then enhance the ability or the incentive for future build-outs from there?
That's a great question. Sure. Yeah, I think if we have 100% take, obviously that's a good return. That's
That's
Not a-
That's the importance of making it very public and going around and making sure that people understand that the possibilities are there.
right.
I-
It's not probably as big, I don't mean to interrupt you, Commissioner, it's not probably as big of a factor had this not been a subsidized program.
Right.
Because this is subsidized, we aren't terribly, we have the funds. It makes sense for us business-wise to build, no matter who takes.
Well,
100,
I'm sure
100 is great.
The RDOF funds makes all the difference here.
It absolutely does, yeah. Because
But-
these are areas normally probably would not have gone to because they're very rural. There is a low return on investment. And it's hard to get there with private capital. With the RDOF funds, it can make sense for us. And we had the lowest bid in these areas, so it also made sense for the federal government. So. Same way with the state funds too, by the way. It's a similar process with the 270 million, which is a record number of allocated dollars for broadband at the state level. It's a huge amount, and we'll basically bid on those as well.
Yeah.
Do you put up new poles, or do you use existing electric companies?
Yes, existing. And we'll work closely with them. Who's the electric provider within the county?
Well, you got Duke, and then over. Yeah,
4 total.
you have Duke and
Whitewater Valley, RMC, Henry County, or Rush County, Rush Shelby, RMC.
Okay, and we had a conversation with them actually just yesterday about activity in another county forgetting which one it was. But we are already, the good news is, that's a good point, we are already in conversation with some of these companies for other counties, so that will expedite the processes here within Fayette. So it's good that this is a statewide project, really. So even though you guys aren't first in the hopper, some of these things are already getting rolling in other counties with the electrics.
You got anything else for
No,
us? Leanne, do you have any more questions?
I don't think so. I probably think I'm gonna go home, but I'm gonna see if she has a card for me. so.
I do. And seriously, my whole position is to do this. I live in Columbus, Indiana, Bartholomew County, so I'm not too far from you guys. If you have some sort of another broadband task force, etc., I'd love to be involved. Really contact me with your address. Others, if you compile more, you can send them to me. We really want to be a resource for you all. So thank you so much for letting me come speak.
Thank you.
Well, I think in the
Absolutely.
coming months, we're going to get to know each other
That's fine by
much
us.
better, yes.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, after the meeting, we will make sure that you leave with all the information you need. I think that's it.
Motion to close the meeting? I move a motion to close.
We have a motion by Commissioner Munson to adjourn, second by me. All in favor?
Thanks, Dale.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we're adjourned. Thank you all very much.